Shall we?
Let's do it now.
Okay, cool. So guys, this is probably the most exciting, for me personally, the most exciting talk that I'm gonna be putting on here so far. The lady that I've got here today she is amazing. First of all, Pixie. Now, I came across Pixie a couple of years ago by chance, to do a reading for me. And it was unlike any reading I've ever had. First of all, I was seeing all sorts of things. I think I became more psychic just from having that first reading and connecting with Pixie's energy. And then fast forward a few months later on, I found out that Pixie was doing this amazing class. So I joined it, and then I became way more in touch with my psychic gifts. And Pixie also was probably my biggest and first cheerleader for me to get into all the medical astrology stuff and to infuse it in with my practice. So yeah, this is a big honor for me, and I think a great memory, if nothing else, really, to have this lovely conversation on video. So as you guys know, it's Cancer season at the moment. So this is a really great time for tuning in to our emotions, and emotions actually make us really magical. We'll talk about that more maybe another time, but you know, when you get into your emotions and you sync an intention with emotions, you really give it energy. And if you're someone who's quite in touch with their emotions and with their inner self, maybe you consider yourself an empath or an intuitive, or maybe a step further, someone who thinks they're psychic, or not thinks, you are. If you feel you're psychic, you are psychic. So I've got Pixie here, who is very experienced across many different disciplines within the mystic, I don't know what we call it, mystic world. across nice. Across many different mystical practices. So from shamanic healing, Kambo, reiki, an amazing tarot practitioner, as I've already said, Egyptian Heka magic, ceremonial magic. I'm sure I'm still missing stuff out, so maybe Pixie, you can fill in the gaps. But you're going to basically help us sort of sort ourselves out, us empaths who don't really know what we're doing or don't really know we're empaths, and then finding ourselves downloading people's feelings and energies from all these busy places that we're in, and just taking them with us, and not knowing that it's just draining us or making us feel something that's not necessarily ours.
Exactly. And that is the essence, what belongs to me and what doesn't belong to me. I think you've done a very good job covering all my multidisciplines. Now, I think coming all the way forward, I've been initiated in many forms of magic, and I come from a long line of healers and psychics. I'm an Irish background, Irish family, both sides. My mum was a healer. She had the gift in her feet as a child. My granddad was a psychic. My other grandmother was a herbalist. So it's a long, long line. And I was very fortunate to have grown up in an environment where it was normal to speak of things like elementals, which we call Fey energy, or elemental energy coming from the earth. I won't labour too much on that, or else I'll digress too much. So it was quite normal to talk about these things. However, a lot of people don't have that background and availability to be able to speak to people. When I started to really seriously, professionally read tarot, because before that I was doing a lot of shamanic work, I was a Kambo practitioner, and I was focusing on that side of life, the healing side more. I'm a reiki master, I'm trained in Japanese technique, advanced. I was combining all that in with the Kambo. I was like very focused on raising the vibration. I created a situation called Our Whole London. I still run that as a Facebook page and a Instagram, couldn't think of the word there, page, bringing communities together. It was amazing. Then there was a need, because I literally got my first set of cards when I was around 15 from a member of the family. So tarot had always been there. I started to read, and it was just solely reading, but all of my healings energy went into my readings, and that's how we met. So I would open sacred space before the clients would come. I would put all the shamanic influence in. I'm just looking on the floor deliberately. I always have my bottle of agua florida, which is amazing. That's just, we won't go laboring too much into it, but it's phenomenal. I would bring that into a reading. I would cleanse the client down. We would do some breathing exercises. And I was noticing how many people were having severe problems with the lack of governing their empathy and their budding psychic abilities. And they were coming in all various distressed states, or some were just super curious. And some people were actually having a really difficult time, because it can be very scary. And it's a very close bedfellow to being diagnosed with like mental health illnesses.
Right. I really think that a lot of people in mental institutes are actually people who are very psychic, but not grounded at all.
That's it. Now you've really touched on a very, very, very valid, most important point. The gift is an amazing thing, but it can be an amazing curse, because if we're not grounded into our gift, then it takes us, it flies us off. To give some examples, I'll try and think of some good examples. What you mentioned earlier, we pick up other people's stuff. So you could be in the supermarket, like aisle 10, you're in aisle 6, could be having a squabble, husband and wife team fighting over the cornflakes or about what brand they're buying. There's an energy there. Energy comes as a form. So you could literally just pick up a ball of that energy. You went into the supermarket, you felt fine. You felt in a relatively good mood. You come out, you feel really crabby. You feel really funny. You think, God, I feel really down. You've picked up some energy somewhere on your day to the supermarket. It can be that easy. You can go into somebody's house, you can tell there's been an argument or an atmosphere, then you go edge. So it's like, it has a profound effect. You don't understand why. People call you too sensitive, because like we've all heard that, oh, she's so sensitive. So then these poor people, now they feel like, oh God, no, I can't be sensitive. They have no idea what they're dealing with. So,
and actually it's a superpower, I think, to be really sensitive once you know how to deal with it. I just wanted to sort of let people know, if you're going to know if you're someone who's sensitive, because you will have resonated with what Pixie said. And maybe it's at work, you notice it, or when you're on the tube, or maybe when people come to your house. So these are, if you start feeling a bit different, or you start feeling, I think also physical sensations in the body, like you're like, whoa, why am I feeling tightness in the chest when I don't have any particular issues here, or stuff in my tummy, like butterflies or like goosebumps or something like that. That's energy.
Gut feeling, that thing of something bad's going to happen. I don't know what it is. Why am I feeling so anxious? Then it can go through into full-blown panic attacks. When people have like nervous disorders, the spectrum goes all the way up to full-blown schizophrenia. Where people are hearing voices. But I hear voices. It's part of the gift. But so I know the difference. Yeah.
I was just about to say, so can we get into that? So for people who feel sensitive, that's the first kind of stage, right? The empath. That means you're an empath. So you can feel other people's feelings, not necessarily you knowing that you're doing that. That doesn't mean you have to take on these feelings, by the way. You can be a strategic empath. So people who work in Pixie's profession or industry, or in mine, we're going to be dealing with people's energies all the time. That doesn't mean that we take those home with us. That would be a disaster if we were doing that. But we empathize with people, but it's in a strategic way. We don't sit there and cry and get affected by it, with all due respect, because that doesn't help anybody. So That's the first level. Then let's say the next level is like you start seeing things, or you start hearing things, or you know things without any logical reason, and then you find out, oh, it's actually happened, or you've experienced something that could be described as deja vu. So what are the different superpowers? They're technically called clairs, right? Claire sentience, Claire audience, blah blah blah. But what are the different clairs for people who don't know?
Well, the main four, let's say, that govern our psychic gift, the main four that most people can tune into and have some sort of bearing on, is clairvoyance, which we all know. Now, clair in French means clear. So clair senses is clear seeing. Okay. So clairvoyance is clearly, literally, you're getting pictures. You're really seeing things. Like I explain it, it's like a TV screen in the middle of my head, and they will drop load pictures in, and you have to look inside, but your eyes are looking forward, but you're looking basically at a space here. We have clairsentience, which is probably one of the most understood clairs. It's where we just feel things, the gut feeling, the knowing something's a bit off, yeah, just, or feeling in advance very excited, like saying, I know I'm going to pass that driving test. I know I'm going to smash it. Everyone's going, oh, don't be too confident. So they can work both ways. It's not all about fear. There are some things where you know a good thing's going to happen. So that's really nice side of it. And you feel other people's emotions. So again, you can tell if someone's super excited. You can tell if they're super pissed, basically, and really annoyed. You can just feel things before they've spoken. Claircognience is thoughts. So this is a strange one. You're about your business and you'll just have an idea and you'll think, I don't know where that came from, but that's an ace idea. And it will be normally something really thorough. So you may have been dealing with a problem before, or there was something you were trying to deal with, and they will just drop it in, and that's been dropped in from spirit. So you're just literally there, like, whoop, in it drops. Yeah? So
clear thinking, you could say.
Yeah, so they call it claircognience. It really is clair. Yeah, let's strip it down into normal man's language.
Yeah,
clair thinking, clear thoughts, clair sentience, clair feeling, like just clair getting it. Yeah, just like, I really feel this situation, I really vibe it. Okay. Clairvoyance, clair seeing, you're seeing things in the middle of your head. And the other very interesting one is clairaudience, clair hearing. So literally the way that works, because people often say to me, but what do you hear? You know, do people have a conversation with you? It's a mixture happens between the vision in the middle of the brain, like the screen, and then some words will come in, or the words come up as pictures across the screen.
Okay.
Like in typo. Yeah? I worked in a creative industry for many, many, many years. So that creative side, I'll often see it in very nice, fancy typography. And it will come right across like in a, as in, I worked in fashion for so many years, and I get a lot of clothing related information about things and about people.
That's very handy, isn't it?
Yeah. It'll give me a vision, and sometimes it can be a metaphor. You'll get something and it's a metaphor. So it'll be a vision in a metaphor. Might be someone, you're working with a client, they're having some issues, let's say at work. And should I go? Should I stay? And you see them like all tied up. And it's like, wow, you're really feeling trapped in this situation. So they can give you a visual metaphor. It's not actually the client is tied up. You know? So they work in these ways. All of these gifts, in order to access them, to make them easy and, well, make them a benefit to your life, is all about being grounded and protected.
Right. Before we go into the grounding, I was just thinking, what are also some astrological confirmations that you're, these people, okay? So if you know your charts, then the most basic thing is if your sun sign is a water sign. So like you, Pixie, you're a Cancer. If you're a Pisces or a Scorpio, if you're a Scorpio, you're probably, or you have a lot of scorpionic energy, for example, you're going to have that clairsentience where you just feel it in your gut. That's the one that you feel in the gut, right?
Yeah.
You'll just know it, and it's more coming from like or even a Taurus sun, because Taurus and Scorpio, they're opposite each other on the chart, so there's a lot of crossover. They're like called sister signs. So anything where it's got to do with survival, anything where it's like, oh, I might be in danger, or I might make some really good money from this situation, or this could cost me a lot of money, that kind of feeling, or I could get sick, anything where it's that sort of primitive. Taurus and Scorpio suns, they and moons actually, and rising ascendants, they feel that very strongly. If you've got Neptune, so that's the ruler of the modern ruler of Pisces, in your first house, or Pluto in your first house as well, or your Pisces sun, moon, or rising, you're going to be extremely psychic as well. You might be able to actually see things, and also a bit of the knowing things. And Cancer as well, sun, moon, or rising. And some people even have this thing where they have a trine in their chart. It kind of looks like a triangle, and it will be a triangle that connects the 3 water signs, because we all have all the astrological signs in our chart, right? But they're in different places dotted along the chart. So if those 3 form a triangle of trine, so they're all speaking to each other harmoniously, the Cancer, the Scorpio, and the Pisces, you are 1000% a very, very psychic person. And you probably have many different gifts, not just one, but it's just about tapping into them. Also, if you have in your 12th house, so let's say you're a fire sign like me, I'm an Aries, but I have a Pisces rising, right? So that's my psychic, part of my psychic bit. But I have a very strong Pluto in Scorpio in the 8th house. So that's people who like to dive really deep underneath things and feel things very deeply, very sensitive people. But if you have water signs in the 12th house, so if or the rulers of those signs, so if you have Neptune, if you have Pluto, even if you have Jupiter in the 12th house, you're probably very psychic. And if you have Mercury in the 12th house, you probably can speak to other kind of beings, so the dead or celestial spirits. If you have Mercury in the 8th house, you definitely can speak to dead people. Sorry to freak you out if you haven't found this out yet.
Mediumship.
Yeah, exactly, mediumship. I don't mean going to graves and
you can if you like, but
but you could see them in your dreams. Even it could be something not even very intimidating. It could be as simple as that. You only see what you kind of want to see. I know that I get scared of seeing things, so I think I've put a block on myself from seeing things. So my thing is to feel and know things. And I've got a very strong crown chakra, right? So that correlates with the claircognizance.
Yes. Yeah. And you just really, you can tune in. You can, it's that future knowing.
Yeah.
Which is, it's just really, you just know. And it's like, and someone can just go, but I know.
Yeah, exactly.
And I bet since you were a kid, you just knew stuff.
Right. For me, interestingly, I did used to see things when I was a kid, and it freaked me out so much that I think I've shut it off.
Yeah, you see, you can actually shut these things right down in a sometimes in a temporary way, which we'll go into later, or if you've had a very bad fright with something, you're like, no, I'm just not going there anymore. I'm just not having any more visuals like that.
Exactly.
That can happen.
And it seems like the remedy of balancing things out when you have a lot of strong water energy in your astrological chart is to do very earthy things. The grounding, it's not a coincidence, it's called grounding, and that's to pull us back down to earth rather than just sort of
I
going.
never thought about it from that astrological aspect, but that's such a good, nice way to put it.
Yeah. Well, people who've got a Taurus, Capricorn, or Virgo, more so Taurus and Capricorn, really, those two signs, especially Taurus, because they're a fixed sign as well. So they're quite stubborn generally and very persistent. And they tend to just naturally be a lot more grounded than, let's say, someone who's a Pisces. Just literally swim along, deep into the ocean, really, for example. Fire signs can be, they can get a bit away with themselves, fire signs, because you got to think of the element, right? Like fire, especially if you have lots of air as well with fire. It's just fire getting big,
the flames.
Exactly. And if you're a bit delusional, that will fan the flames of delusion as well. And then air is actually very cerebral. So air people as well, they can be quite grounded, but they can also get a little bit too cerebral, which probably they need grounding for that too, right? When you're too much in your head.
To get too lost in their head. Yeah. Rumination and overanalyzation.
What is it called when you're a bit neurotic?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And they rule the nervous system, a lot of these air signs, Uranus and Mercury, for example. They do definitely play a big role in nervous system. So whenever we have Mercury retrograde, for example, because that rules Gemini, which is an air sign, people tend to find themselves a little bit more anxious or a little bit more like erratic, have more difficulty sort of focusing. So grounding is something that I've been telling people to do during Mercury retrograde, or when we've had a lot of air in the sort of general overall chart. But at the moment, the air is okay. We have a lot of water. We've got a lot of water. We've got Jupiter in Pisces. So again, that's, yes, expanding. And also it can make people very delusional. It's very good for being into that whole meditation and prayer space. But if you're not grounded, you can go into the delusion and like escapism route of taking lots of drugs and drinking lots of alcohol. And, it can be a bit depressive as well, because you could want to just like escape by sleeping, eating, your feelings, that kind of thing. So grounding is like, it's like a massive, like, what is it? Like one of those kind of remedies. It's like the Panadol of spirituality. Not even, I mean, it's
rescue remedy, the bark remedy, rescue does everything.
Exactly. If in doubt, just ground, and it helps, whether you're, you've got a headache, or even if you're just feeling really scattered, like there's so much on your mind, you're feeling stressed, or whether you're feeling like,
fearful,
a bit lost. Yeah. What would you say are some of the biggest symptoms or telltale signs of someone not being grounded?
One of them, like sort of small, really obvious ones, we can all be sort of prone to this at times, is losing and misplacing things. So if you notice around the house, you're always going, where are my keys? Where's my phone? Like you haven't physically lost it forever, like ours. Well, not your keys, because you let yourself in last night. So, you're driving yourself mad. That's a sign of being very ungrounded, because effectively you've walked in with your keys and you've just banged them somewhere, and you've gone off and you've done like 101 other things, and then you can't remember the next day. So that's a really good tip for everyone. Do you consistently find yourself rummaging to try and find things that you've lost within the home, knowing that you haven't lost them? Okay. This is very, very good sign of being ungrounded. Another one in the modern world is not reading emails and texts properly. This is a biggie. Mm-hmm. So you'll receive something, and it can go from friends communication to work communication, and then you find yourself at some later point being told, but I told you that in that email, or I did give you the time in the text, and then please look at it, because sometimes it can be serious. If it's a work related thing, then you're maybe getting in trouble because you're not somewhere where you should be. Even friends things, they said, but no, we said that everyone was wearing white t-shirts to that event, and you turn up in a green t-shirt and everyone's like, wow, you haven't read properly. It's a very big sign. So what you've done, you've just scanned through things because your head's so busy. It's disassociation. You're not present. So we've all heard that thing about being centered and about being present. When you're ungrounded, you're not present. You don't listen properly. People are talking to you. You're not engaged properly in the conversation. You're like, what? These are all very big signs. Then going a little bit more serious, you feel anxious. That feeling you spoke about in the chest, which is a horrible feeling, that like pang of anxiety going all the way to full-blown panic attacks when people are incredibly ungrounded. Anxiety plays a lot of parts on that spectrum. So check in with your anxiety, whatever the cause of, and sometimes it's valid. You know, if there's something to be, you know, someone's in hospital, they're having an operation, yes, you are validly anxious, but you still don't have to feel it that much. You can be more rational about your concern by being grounded, because all of that hyperventilation actually isn't helping the person, it's not helping you. Whereas if you're thinking, right, I'm actually really concerned, but let's put all the best energy on it because I work so much with energy. Let me not feed that situation with fear. I'm going to put lots of positivity on it. They're going to come out. They're going to be fine. And yeah, I'm actually going to plan that day to bring them up a bunch of yellow tulips because I know it's their favourite flower. So I'm going to start looking online now for the yellow tulips rather than sitting there being all ungrounded and pulling yourself to pieces. Not helpful for anybody. What other signs? There's sort of some of the real daily signs in a daily life.
I think projection is a big one as well.
Projecting and mirroring onto other people your stuff, where
your traumas. I mean, yeah.
You haven't looked at your stuff properly from a grounded perspective. We've all got our stuff, you know, this is the human experience. And projection, yeah. They are this and they are that. The minute you're projecting out labels onto other people, come right back into the self and have a chat and go, hang on, let me ground for a minute. And, you know, we can all do it. How dare they push in front of me in the car in the traffic or something, you know? Just bring it back in. Road rage, that's really ungrounded. It's another one. Flying off the handle, because again, you might have a really valid reason to be upset because something is upsetting. If you fight fire with fire, you're just going to get an explosion. So you ground, you think this is incredibly unjust behavior. How should I deal with this to get the best result? You can't do that unless you're grounded. You get pulled away by the other person's emotions. So all of those spectrums, really.
Yeah. And then another one that I thought of as well is, because I experienced quite a lot of this, is just letting thoughts get sort of get away with themselves, you know, like you see something on the news and you just assume the worst case scenario and it's going to go to hell, you know, or in general, your anxiety, again, I guess it's anxiety.
Fear making.
Yeah. And really just expanding and magnifying fears beyond what is really reasonable as well. It's going back to what you said about not being present, because in the present, everything's okay. In this present moment, as long as you're not on fire or anything like that.
I said, even if you were, you better be trying to put it out rather than wave your arms about and get more burn. So there's always like the flip side. Whatever the situation is, however awful it is, being grounded and present makes you make better decisions. So that, you know, you can, unfortunately, in the modern world, end up in a very fearful, real, live, dangerous situation. And if you panic, you will probably make a much worse decision or exit from that bad situation. If you really stay grounded and think, does this feel right? You know, is this person trying to be subversive to me in any way? Don't panic, just think about it. Keep grounded. Make better decisions rather than thinking in your head, oh, this is happening, that's happening. You find yourself walking in a very dark area, thinking, oh God, I didn't really think about that. I didn't realize it was going dark now at 8:30 and it's really dark now and I'm in this really dark road. You know, you plan things better when you're grounded. So it does help you Because some people will say, yeah, but some stuff happens, and you know, what's the good of being grounded? Then you sort of do tend, however bad the thing is, on the spectrum of someone passing away that you love dearly.
Yes.
If awful things happen, people get diagnosed with dreadful illnesses. But if you're more grounded and in your center, you will still have a better experience with whatever life is thrown at us.
Yeah, and I think when you're grounded as well, especially if you're a more spiritual person, you can calm yourself and start to be more of an observer when these terrible things happen, where it's like, this is terrible, I'm going to feel the feelings, but this is not happening to me, and this is going to all sort of, there's always, I find, as horrible as this sounds, even to the most horrible things, there's always a silver lining. I feel like at some point in your life later on, definitely not at the moment for most people, but later on, you kind of have an appreciation for that moment for some reason or another. Maybe
well,
not
there's a lesson, a lesson maybe, and then later you think, oh, that really diabolic thing that happened to me, now I understand that was a massive learning point when I stopped doing that and I went in that direction. So still the thing could have been desperately unpleasant, but you can see it from a higher perspective.
Yeah, and also I find that it leaves you with a new skill or tool as well, in terms of how to navigate life for a better experience. Well, if you see yourself as a victim all the time, then maybe not. But if you decide to take the other route, where you start to
ground into your problem, into your trauma,
right?
And, you know, people have very real trauma. It's very, very real. But you can still step back from that and go, okay, I can't do anything about what's past, but I can certainly do something about the future. And we are the architects of our future in our thoughts. So it's again about the thought process, which is that's a whole nother chat. That's a whole nother video, that one.
Perspective. Yeah. Perspective really changes everything. And from a health perspective as well, you know, being grounded, the reason why I spoke to so many of my clients is not because about being grounded is not because they were trying to become, you know, psychics or anything like that. It's literally because a lot of them have health issues which actually emanate from their nervous system being unbalanced. So, you know, back to what you were saying with the vagus nerve. So the nervous system, basically, we have two kind of modes that we go in and out of, right? We have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous, I know you know this, Pixie. I'm just
no, go on. No, I like it. No, go on.
Defining. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight mode, right? Is when your body sort of starts to prepare itself to either punch a predator in the face to fight, or to flee, or you're going to freeze. Either way, your body's going to do things that are not favorable for anything else other than those reactions. So either you'll literally feel like you need to poo your pants, or your whole digestive system just locks up, and then you end up in the other world, the constipation world, for example. And then you've got situations where food is just hanging out in your colon and in your small intestines because, you know, your body's told the digestive system, we don't need this right now. This is extra. Right? Yeah. We need basics. We need muscle. We need blood pumping into the muscle, and we need our eyes to be working properly, and we need to be able to go or do whatever. So the way modern life is like our bodies don't actually know whether we're really facing a fight or flight situation, but your body perceives it like there's a predator or a fight or flight situation happening, even if it's just you're running late for your meeting, or someone cut you off, and you had a little bit of a road rage situation, even if it's in your own car on your own with the windows shut, but you had that reaction. So that means the hormones responsible for making that fight or flight situation, they've already sent the messages. The other state that is way more conducive for healing and for health is the parasympathetic nervous system. So you get that when you do these amazing deep breathing exercises, when you do yoga, and Grounding, that's why grounding is something I was recommending to all my clients, and I would send them all to that video of yours, actually, Pixie, of you with the drum.
Oh, yes, yes.
Doing the grounding, so they can also feel the vagus nerve getting stimulated by, you know, following your breathing techniques that stimulates the vagus nerve. But also, you know, if you're lucky enough to book a one-on-one with Pixie, maybe she'll bring her drum out. The drum's vibrations themselves, they stimulate the vagal nerve. Other things like chanting and singing will also stimulate the vagal nerve. When your vagal nerve is weak, your digestion is going to be crap, but also you'll have a harder time coming into that parasympathetic nervous system.
So into your center.
Exactly. And that's the one that you would want to be in order to be able to see your gifts, your psychic gifts, and also to have them in a balanced way. One other thing before I forget as well, for our psychic friends who maybe aren't very grounded, have you heard from some people who are, you know, when they get into all of this stuff, and it's all very exciting, when they're not grounded, they see a lot of scary visions, or, you know, worrying visions. And yeah, they might even
think they're going to happen, and it's like they'll have these sort of vivid dreams with, like, and I've had a lot of clients that have come to me with, I keep seeing, you know, like horror things, or I keep having horrible thoughts. I know I'm psychic, I know I've got a gift, but you're filtering in and out the wrong stuff. That's where the protection comes in, because there's a whole highway of information out there. As you say, your body's picking it up, it's releasing different hormones, your psychic awareness is open, it's absorbing this information, and there's a lot out there. Not all of it you want to be tuning into, not all of it belongs to you. Very little of it actually belongs to you. And that's where you can start getting the real sort of horror dreams, nightmares, night terrors, or just having really dark thoughts where you, or visuals, like you think, oh, what? Oh, that was horrible. Why did that go into my mind? You know, and it can be something really quite disturbing. It's because you're not grounding and protecting your energy, and all sorts of flotsam and jetsam. It's just like flooding in. Yeah, really good point. No horror thoughts. People go, but it's so real, and I know I've got a gift. It's like, you're using it properly, and you're not managing the gift, and now the gift is going to be like really curse-like and give you a really good point instead. You know, very good point.
And I've actually met people who they identify as being quite psychic or sensitive, and they've said things to me like, oh, I see, you know, shadow figures or scary looking figures quite distinctly staring at me or whatever. And I wonder whether that's because they're not grounded, and or something else that can happen when you're not grounded and protected, right? Is the leaks, the energy leaks for psychic attacks to take place. Do you mind just very quickly, very quickly defining or explaining what psychic attacks are?
Okay, in a very small nutshell, everything is energy. Okay, so this isn't just from a psychic point of view, this is even going back to Albert Einstein. Okay, we are all just energy on different levels. A thought form is a massive energy. So if I, in the most simplistic terms, don't like you, or someone doesn't like me, it comes through, okay? And it's like, they're like little bombs, I call them. So if somebody, and we're always prone to upset somebody at some time, it's not a perfect world, you know, it happens. Consistent bombardment and envy and hatred, they're such strong negative emotions, actually create quite, let's say, meaty energy forms and little bombs. So they will come at the person, and they are the beginnings of psychic attack. Very little psychic attack is full-blown, proper magical psychic attack, like I saw in South America. The shamans in the deep jungle were busy throwing darts and arrows, energetic ones, at each other and creating massive illnesses in each other. And they were very powerful people, and they were working with very old magic. Just in our very modern world, so somebody hasn't got a, huge magical gift, but enough negativity at a person can create a psychic attack. I do a lot of protection work, especially in the work that I do, because I put myself out there. So you're not, again, pleasing everybody all of the time. I'm also sitting in people's energy a lot, or people project back on me. I didn't like that, what you said, or I didn't like, you know, I'm not going to get back with Bobby. And I know he really loves me, you know, and it's like, no, he doesn't. But anyway, and you'll get like an attack. And I do a hell of a lot of protection work for that. Now, still, with all of my protection work, every now and again, if it's something quite meaty, I know the difference, I can feel it. And I'll think, ooh, I could feel that come over me. Yeah, you know, like in sort of on the TV when they talk about shade, like giving someone shade. It is literally, because shade is a thing. Yeah, it's
so true.
Yeah, so you give someone shade. What you're really doing is you're throwing a big nasty load of energy at them, and they're going to feel that on some way, or it's going to reflect in some luck they do or don't have. Yeah, or things go wrong for them, and this is regular psychic attack that we are all capable of giving and all capable of receiving without going into magic. Like, I can't even start to go into the magic, but magical attack is, well, you really do know that some people come to me, they say, I think I'm under like some magical curse or spell. And I go, no, it's okay. Trust me, you wouldn't be here talking to me, number one, about the whole situation if it was as bad as you feel. What they've done, they've got inside your head, and you're actually attacking yourself. There's all like programming around that with certain forms of magic. But yeah, normally it's just normal people slinging their stuff about, which isn't very pleasant.
Their shadow. So just to add even more context to the shade, it's coming from their shadow aspects that they've rejected. Both parties, really, isn't it? The people who are throwing the shade and the people who are sensitive to catching the shade. So guys,
there's imbalances where you're both, as polarities, isn't it? You're both connected at some point on the spectrum. No one's perfect, and you're both hitting in at that point to learn a big lesson, you know?
Yeah. And for anybody that wants to know more about protection, I really recommend you get in touch with Pixie. Is this a one-to-one lesson thing, Pixie?
Yeah, what I'm doing now, I'm doing it because like I met you, we've done the lovely group, and I found that doing the group was an amazing experience. I met some lovely people, like your good self, and everyone was lovely. But people are at all different levels, and their needs need to be a little bit tailored. So what I offer now, rather than doing a broad spectrum group, is I do one-to-one tuition. So I work with some people that aren't interested in developing their magic ability or their psychic ability, but they're huge empaths. And I tailor a program for them. It's normally a 3-session situation. I have a meeting with them in advance and work out what they need. I also then channel into it with spirit. So I'll get the team of advisors in, I'll get my team in, I'll bring their team in from spirit world, and I'll have a look at what is the best thing for them to manage their energy.
Wow.
Also interview them, see what their problems are, see what the imbalances are in their life. Some people really want to throw themselves into their magical practice. I will, depending on where they are already. Some people are quite advanced. They come to me, they just need things tidying up and clarifying. Others are just starting out, and I will give them the right grounding. Everyone has to do grounding and protection with me. That's the first lesson. They could be the Wizard of Oz. They have to come in the door and do grounding and protection. And then we do the other lessons geared around that. So, because so many professional people, Nora, I know, good friends and co-workers in the industry don't ground and protect properly. And then we will have conversations and they'll say, oh, I'm feeling like nani. And I'll go, yeah, well, what about your grounding and protecting? Yeah, no, I do that. And I do you really do that? You sure? You know, are you looking after your energy field? So I teach people all about that. So they can just connect with me, send me an email on pixiepcarney.com is my website, and see what you need. Yeah, see what you need. Everything's individual. It's like the healings with the drum journey. They're sort of all individual. No two are ever the same as well. I have a rough idea where I take people, But really it's when I get my spirit team in and their spirit team in, and we have like a meeting. We have the client is there as well, but we have a proper AGM of like, what do we need to do to make this person vibe at their highest? Because that's all we're here to do in this life experience, is have the highest, best life experience for ourselves. We're not here to martyr our energy out for the whole world, because that's not effective. It's our journey. It's for us to shine at our brightest. And in that, then we radiate an amazing energy around us. And
and I did the healing. So I now that I think of it, I've done lessons with you, although I kind of wish I did those one-to-one lessons, because that sounds way better, very personalized and prescriptive. So we might have a chat about that.
Work something out. Especially because now you're so advanced in your medical astrology and everything else. That would be really interesting to see the next lines. I think we know where it's both going to go.
I mean, it's been really helpful, even though we didn't do anything regarding astrology, but my understanding of astrology is a lot more nuanced, and there's a lot of depth because of a lot of the stuff that we covered, even though it had nothing to do with astrology. And just the way I proceed in life has changed. I feel like a very different person, a person who's actually, I'll tell you what it is. I feel like a very aligned person, and I didn't feel like that before. It started a little bit with the readings, as I said, because I remember the first reading I had with Pixie, guys, was crazy. This is even before the reading started, when she connects and when she talks about the grounding. She actually does it at the beginning of her sessions, her reading. You have to book a tarot session with Pixie. I said this before, so I have to say it again. It's for your own benefit. You're going to enjoy it so much. And it's funny, the amount of times I've spoken to people and said, oh, you got to have a reading with Pixie. And randomly they'd be like, yeah, I already had one. I'm like, and it's got nothing to do with me. So anyway, in the first reading I had with Pixie, I remember when she was grounding me in, I saw so many eyes. I closed my eyes and I saw so many eyes looking at me, and I'd never experienced anything like that before. I was like, wow. So there was a massive awakening. So also maybe be careful if you're not ready to be awakened even just a little bit. That will probably happen, because Pixie's energy is just amazing. But the whole teaching felt very aligning. But then when we did the healing,
that was powerful that day.
Wow. Yeah, when you talk about this AGM meeting with the spirit guides, that's exactly what happened. That's what you did with me. And I feel like that was the thing that just basically made me so solid after that, because it was a few weeks after that I had a fire. And the way I reacted, you know obviously all about that, but the way I reacted to the fire even surprised me. I took it so well, considering, and I think a big part of that is because of what I'd already started the lessons with you, and we'd done the healing, and that was only about a month or a month and a half into all of that stuff. So anyone who has the opportunity to work with Pixie in any capacity, just consider yourself very, very blessed. And I feel like you align people with their purpose, or you guide them. You can't force people to get into alignment, but I think you're a great catalyst and guide for aligning people with their purpose. And that's so important, even for your health. If you're not in alignment with your purpose, your true purpose, not the purpose that your parents told you should have, or school, or whatever rubbish has come from the external, you actually can start finding that you get chronic diseases. They start off obviously as little feelings, as we said, even that thing we were talking about, how empaths can feel tightness in their chest. When you go somewhere and you feel uncomfortable, or you're talking about something that makes you feel uncomfortable, you're going to find yourself doing something physically, whether you're just grabbing your hands, or whether your jaws start getting tighter, or your stomach getting tighter, or you start, some people, they start like fiddling around with their knees. Their knees do that.
Yeah, like moving about stuff here.
Yeah, that's the part of your body that is going to be getting affected. That's your body telling you, this is where I'm storing this emotion. So you have to sort of get these feelings, you have to process them. Some people are really knowledgeable, and they go and become very knowledgeable like Pixie, and they learn different ways to sort of deal with these feelings. I know someone else who's amazing who used yoga to completely, you know, get rid of some very serious trauma. Maybe I'll have this guest on one day, but he had some very serious childhood trauma that he released just through a lot of yoga, and he's teaching people to do that now. And you know, that's kind of what happens as well when you're aligning people with their purpose. They can actually now process things. It can be a bit uncomfortable sometimes, but you're processing things, which means they're not going to be stuck. It's not going to be stagnant energy anymore, which can also make you ungrounded, right? When you're
oh yeah, when you sit in the sludge, and then again it starts to pull you out of your center. It's that whole thing, like grounded, centered. It's all coming through here, and when we're pulled out of that alignment through, you know, negative thoughts, or as you say, the sludge of there, or the memories of some dreadful thing that happened in the past, which that happened, and it's not get over it, because some things have been incredibly painful for people, but try and manufacture a new reality from that dreadful lesson, and try and have as positive a life experience from that. And who knows, you might be like that gentleman, able to help other people because you had that trauma, so you can identify with others and help them, so you could become a great healer or a great life guide or coach, which then in turn helps lots of people. So then one day, maybe when you're a very old person, you sit there and you say, I'm glad I had that dreadful experience when I was a child, but I can see now that dreadful experience I had as a child, I've now helped 1,000 people get over a dreadful experience, because I took the best of that and made the best of it. Being grounded, make that decision.
Having that grounded perspective when you look back at things that happened in a previous time in your life, if you're in a more grounded position, then that's how you can sort of start to break away these traumas, where you can start looking at these past situations in a more healed, with more healed eyes, shall we say, more healed perspective. And then you can start to release a lot of this baggage. I mean, that's what I personally have been doing. No, I don't know if that works for everyone, but I have a feeling it probably does. It's just about finding their way to do it,
and finding their expression in that. And with your wonderful medical astrology, because I guess, does that come from the beginning of the chart? Like, is it predestined from where your planets were in your birth chart? What's going to happen? I'm interviewing you now.
Well, actually, it's really interesting. The birth chart can be very specific about certain events happening at a specific point in that person's life, but sometimes it's just about how an energy can manifest, you know, like the qualities of how that event, or that how that event can manifest, the flavor of the event as well. But I don't know what your take is on this, but in general, with astrology, it's believed, everything's there in your birth chart. Everything's kind of like you have a map there, and it's about utilizing these energies in your chart to the best of your abilities. So turning the negatives into a positive just by channeling things in a way that makes more sense for that particular house. So, for example, if you have Pisces in the 6th house, which is your house of everyday routine, don't work against the energy by making yourself have a very Capricorn or Virgo type of routine. It's just not going to work. You know, go with the strengths of a Pisces routine, which is maybe sometimes work from a cafe, sometimes take your laptop and work in a park. You know, sometimes, I don't know, change things up a little bit, something like that. You know, or make your routine full with lots of rituals, like spiritual rituals. Start your day off with an Epsom bath or something. Don't go against the energy, go with it, and then you'll find that you've got very productive day. It doesn't have to be what other people's idea of an everyday routine could be. But yeah, that's
fascinating. Yeah, that is really fascinating, though. That's an amazing tip, I think, for everybody to have a look at and get a really good reading with you on their strengths and how they can manage these things. It's all complex layers, isn't it, Nor?
Yeah, there's no bad planets. I think there's some challenging aspects, but there's no bad planets. Sometimes people go, oh, Saturn, oh, Pluto, scary, Mars, no, but you know, Mars is what makes you go further in life. As we said, Pluto makes you a master investigator because you've got that very strong psychic, just knowing because of survival, and you can smell when someone's about to snake you, you know, before they even know that they're going to do it. But what I was going to say, because I digressed a little bit, is even though everything's in your chart, with your willpower and your intention, you can do whatever you want, good or bad. You can go out of the blessings that are in your chart, and you can also swerve some of the catastrophes that are in your chart. It's a bit like what I say to my clients with nutrition as well. You know, genetics loads the gun, but it's the environment that pulls the trigger. So it's what you do every day that's going to determine whether that hereditary cancer gene is going to get expressed. And it's the same kind of thing with astrology as well. So if you're not an aware person and you're living in your ego all the time, then you're going to be more a slave to your chart, and more so the low vibrational, more malefic side of things. But if you're someone that kind of works on yourself, self-develop, you'll express more of the positive aspects of your chart. You do a lot of alchemy there as well, of turning the negatives into the positives, whether it's on a health perspective or you know, spiritual, emotional, mental plane.
That's fascinating. So you can just gauge and go, right, I've got the predisposition to be like this, so let me. I think that was a lovely one analogy about going to the park to do the meetings and the work rather than trying to sit in the office. I've made the office indoors and I'm going to sit at this desk, and then, as you say, they'll just go off and do a million other things because they don't really want to be at that desk. Whereas be more productive and take that somewhere else. That's fascinating.
So yeah, if you have a Neptune in the 6th house or Pisces there, then you might find you're one of these people where it's best for you to sort of change things up and not have a very strict routine. But before we go into you just sort of finishing us off with a lovely grounding exercise, how can people reach you if they want to contact you for either a reading or a healing, or they just want to learn a bit more about, you know, this whole empathy, psychic,
energy management and stuff? Development. My go to my website is amazing way to get hold of me. It's pixiepcarney.com. My Instagram, which is Pixie P Carney. Or I do 2 versions on the Instagram. I sort of play with it a little bit, which probably isn't the right way to really approach it. But I have Aho London, where I tend to paint more of all of my tree energy, because I'm obsessed with working with trees, which I didn't really touch on tonight because it's a separate earth magic. So I use Aho London for that, so people can connect with me through there. And Pixie P Carney is more of all my psychic work and the work of bettering the self, know thyself, you know, using old ancient doctrines and that sort of flavor. So a little bit different, more of the mind, I think, Pixie P. Carney, and Aho London's more earthy and trees. I just put all my tree stuff there. So I love trees. Okay. So any of those 3 outlets can Pixie P. Carney.
So is your website link on either of those Instagrams in the bio?
Both.
Okay.
It's on there at the bottom.
For anybody watching on Instagram, obviously the link doesn't hyperlink, unfortunately, in the captions, but I will be putting Pixie's Instagram handles in the description, so you can just click right there and you'll be able to access her website by going to her account. Obviously follow Pixie, because sometimes she does sort of just sprinkle some bits of really precious wisdom. I love the Hermetic Laws series because people don't know about this. They just think of The Secret, and you know that I find The Secret very annoying because it's just That's like so funny. It's only one part. It's only one part. You're missing out on so much. That's so much more powerful. And if you do the secret in isolation, it doesn't work. Not for very long anyway, in my experience.
And the intention is all wrong. You know, you're trying to manifest some ridiculousness. Like you're gonna really think about what you wish for. My mum used to say that. It's a very Irish phrase. Be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. And it's like, you know, put thoughts out there with some sort of format, not just some secret nonsense. Literally. Yeah, very good point, Mark. Very good point.
So yeah, so that's how people can contact you. Would you be happy to give us a little bit of a taster, like just a basic grounding thing? I know it's not enough. I know you have to do a lot of protection. I do a hell of a lot of protection every day, that you've taught me. I've incorporated that, but the grounding was probably the first thing that you showed me, and it did, that in itself made a difference.
Yes. So what I'm going to go through now, it's a little combination of, it's a grounding and a little breathing exercises. Noor mentions a couple of times about vagal breath, which I think we have to come on again and just talk about breathing at some point and chanting. And you know, even, I'm just going to digress for one little minute, humming. So even if you're not chanting or doing some, you know, wonderful sort of Vedic chant, which I love, humming, and even just going around in Ireland again, my granddad used to call it lilting. And you hum inside your head and you can really feel the vibration in there. That works very well as well. Sorry to digress again, but there's so much we've got to talk about now. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
it's all relevant though. It's all relevant. Yeah. It
all weaves in, doesn't it? I really enjoyed, I must say, myself this evening before I ground us out. It's been really good fun. I really loved it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Bless you. And I'm going to do a little breathing and a little grounding and just pulling a little veil of protection over us. So you can do this. It's really nice to do it in the morning, ground in the morning. It's really nice to ground before you go to bed. So it's an act thing at any time of the day.
And just do you need anything to do this grounding?
No, you just need to be seated. We'll do this seated. We could do it standing though as well. That would also work. So seated is nice. Just relax. You just sit yourself down in a chair, feet on the floor, kick your shoes off. So just connect with the floor. And it doesn't matter if you're on the 44th floor, because we send our roots all the way down. So if we're, let's say, in a high-rise block, we send it down through every floor of the building. So I will start on the visualization. Okay. So when you are doing this by yourself and you haven't got someone guiding you like me, I say it gently under my breath to myself. I still say it because the word carries its own magical vibration, rather than just think it, just say it. It has a different resonance. Okay. If you can say it out quite loud, it's even better, but sometimes people feel dreadfully self-conscious. Okay, so just sit in your chair, just revolve your shoulders a little bit, just send those ears away from your shoulders, nice straight long neck. We're going to do a series of 3 breaths. It's a visualization. We're breathing in golden light, and that golden light is flooding through all of our energetic system that we spoke about today. And we're blowing out any sludge or any energy that doesn't serve us. So lovely deep breath in, golden light. Hold it at the top, flooding through every cell, chakra and clair sense, and blow out any energy that isn't serving us. Full exhale. And in, golden light. Holding it at the top, mopping any last energy that isn't serving us today or any day. Blow it out. And this one now, we're going to really start feeling those roots, breathing golden light. And as we gently exhale, feeling big roots coming out of the bottom of your feet, grounding right down through your building, right through the foundations, right through all the drains and infrastructure, cabling, pipe work, sending those roots down into the deep, moist earth. Feel those roots from both feet spreading out and connecting with the local tree life. Really feel those toes spreading as the roots connect. And take just one big, beautiful deep breath in to really connect to those roots for your evening or your morning. And connect. Imagine a whole big bubble of golden light descending over you and protecting you, under you, around you, and underneath you. Beautiful bubble of golden protective light for your day or for your evening or for your night's sleep. Aho.
Aho.
Very simple techniques. We've got breathing in there, we've got grounding in there, we've got visualization in there, and we've got a bubble of protection. So there's 3 in 1.
Yeah, I think that golden light, you know, envisioning it mopping up anything that doesn't serve us, it's also very good for our physiological health, because you've said this before in previous meditations that you've led me on, where we're talking about cells, we're talking about the golden light filling up all of our cells. So you can actually do that to make yourself well. I mean, Dr. Joe Dispenza, some of you might be yeah, some people might be familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza's journey already, where he sort of fixed himself from having his spine completely paralyzed, I think it was, to, well, I mean, he is a chiropractor, I think, anyway, so he had a really good knowledge of what the spine looks like, but he visualized his spine getting back together. So just like you visualize the golden light going into your cells, you can also visualize your cells being really healthy and buoyant and young with that visualization. So that, as I said, this is really like a remedy for all. And one thing I also remember you teaching me is that for people who are not grounded when they meditate, because that's a very popular thing to do, right? To meditate now. But if you're not grounded and you meditate, that's where you can just like end up seeing, yeah, you're just in la la land, like with, don't want to offend you, with the fairies.
That's it, not in a helpful way.
Yeah, exactly, not in a helpful way, where you're getting away with yourself and you might be prone to sort of feeling things that are not really there and things like that. You taught me to ground before meditating, so it's not an equivalent. It's not like, oh, meditate or ground. It's no, you need to ground first, so when you meditate, you're not going to funny places.
Yeah, you're not just losing the whole essence. We have a phrase in magical work: you have to go down to go up. So everything has to start from a very grounded perspective. And some people don't like to ground. There's another misconception. If they want to do some deep meditation, they say, oh no, I won't be able to connect to the astral, or I won't be able to connect to the angelic realm, or whatever method they want to connect to, like, you know, let's say a higher dimension. Actually, you will ground first and have a much clearer experience of going up to the realms, because it's coming from a place of strength and power. And we call that earth energy. And then on more advanced meditations, when I take the people right down to the center of the earth to pull out the psychic energy, and then they draw that up through their chakras, and then they expand out of the crown chakra and go up to connect to their guides, you know, that's what we have done. And where everything comes, not just sitting there going, I want to connect to my guides, like where from, where are you coming from? You're wobbling already, you know, energetically all over the place. You don't have a clear direct channel up. So yeah, you know, we have to jump on again and talk about some more stuff. I feel there's a zillion more things I want to cover with you.
There are. And this is what our conversations are like, even outside of this, where
it's normal. Yeah, that's it. When we're just having a chat, it like
never ending, because there's so much. And I'm like a sponge that's creating a Wikipedia inside my head, and you are like the Wikipedia of spiritual stuff. So it's great to
I learned from
pick your brain.
Wonderful irony, we call it reciprocity. Like it's just flows, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's always flowing. I learned so much from you. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and we learn from everybody, even people who, you know, people who feel like, oh, I don't know anything about spirituality. There's stuff that spiritually you're teaching other people. So don't think, oh, there's nothing that I can teach others. There's always something to learn, and there's always something you can teach. Having said that, as I said, if you guys want to learn more about how to be more in tune with yourself, whatever that means to you, being more in control of like your boundaries as an empath, so you don't let people's energies leak through, or whether you want to explore your psychic gifts a bit more, trust me, it helps with so many facets of your life. I talked about my experience and how it's made me sort of really happy because I can do what I'm doing now. I was a bit scared of doing that before and didn't know if that was a thing, to mix the astrology with the very scientific nutrition therapy. But here I am. So yeah, I think get in touch with Pixie, because you really don't know what you'll get out of it, how far it could take you. Pixie, thank you so much for your time and for your lovely wisdom, as always.
Bless you.
And I'm sure we'll do other videos in the future.
I super enjoyed it. I totally really enjoyed myself. So thank you so much for facilitating this evening and just opening this space, because it's all about us. We just held space there, and it feels like a little private conversation because it's going to go right out there. So to all of you that join us in our extended space, lots of love.
Yes.
And I hope you've all learned something tonight that will help you on your journey.
All right. Thank you so much, Pixie.
Lots of love, Angel. Okay.